Hey guys, happy Thursday. There was supposed to be a video yesterday, and I fully intended on making it. But this is something that's very emotional for me and hard for me to talk about. And I did feel like I need to do a little bit more research to be able to put into words like what I remember. Some of this is just going to be factual because I wanted to give you facts on when different things happened. Um, but a lot of what I remember um, is stuff I've heard. It's not a lot. Like I said, I don't have a lot of memories before the age of 13. This happened before I was 13. He was arrested, I believe, in 84. Um, and so I was young. But, back when I was like 10, like it was nothing for us to go to a friend's house who lived in the city and walk to the pizza place or walk up and down the streets together at 10 because it really wasn't a safer time, but it was. Um, at 10, I didn't look like a 10-year-old. I had already hit puberty. I definitely looked like an older child than 10. My friend, not so much. She was tall, but she was very thin and very much looked like a younger person. But what happened? I grew up in a small town in Connecticut called Jewett City. I didn't actually live in Jewett City proper. I lived in the surrounding town. Um, but most of my friends were in Jewett City. My school was in Jewett City. Um, the Jewett City is like a borough. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a borough of the town of Griswold in the state of Connecticut. And that's where I grew up. Um, in the 80s, for about 2 years-ish, there was a serial killer in my town, or in my area. Um, and he killed 8 people total, including one that he killed in college. It wasn't until he said the one he did in college that anyone even knew that he killed her. A couple of people he was convicted for. Um, he admitted to. He told them he did it. And he was able to give them information that explained that he had done it and make it obvious. So as I'm talking about this, if you are triggered by any kind of violence, I'm not going to go into details about how they died or any of that. No one needs to know that information. If you're someone who wants to look deeper into it, feel free. I'll give you his name, everything. You can find it. It's public record. He did get the death sentence, and that was acted upon. So he is no longer on this earth, which I am honestly not sad about. In 1982, so when I was 8, my cousin's wife disappeared. The story that I remember hearing all the time for a while, because she's one of the ones that they found out later, it wasn't her husband that did it. It was the guy, Michael Ross. The story I had heard was that their car had broken down, and this has been confirmed on multiple places that I've researched. The story I was told was correct. They had broken down. They were in between 2 exits, and one exit had a gas station that was open, and one had a gas station that was closed. So they walked opposite directions. If his gas station was closed, he was going to walk back to the car and wait for her to bring gas back to the car. If his gas station was open, he was going to fill the gas. She was to stay there, and he would come and get her. To my understanding, that was the agreement. And she just never came back. He came back with the gas, and he drove around looking for her. And I guess from what I've watched online, it appears they were kind of having issues with their marriage. And I guess he just thought maybe she just found a ride with somebody else and just taken off and left him behind or whatever. And so he went home, and she didn't come home, and he called in as missing person, and they found her body, and they thought it was him for quite a while. I don't know at what point they found out that it wasn't him. I'm going to assume it's going to be around the time he was arrested in 1984. So that was a thing that put my family through some stress. I mean, no one really thought he did it. No one thought he was capable of that. But at the same token, where did she go? Like and who killed her? Like it was a lot of stuff going on at that time. And then There was one person who had gone missing in 85, no, 83, sorry, 83. And we didn't know them or anything like that. We just knew that there was multiple people that had gone missing. So I think it started, there's 1, 2, 3 in 82, 1 in 83, and then 3 more girls in 84. Now, his first ones were all like, there was a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, then there was my cousin's wife who was 23, and then there was a 19-year-old. So he went for like the older teenage girls in the beginning. In 84, 2 girls from my hometown. Now, what I was told was that they were just walking somewhere. And when I've watched the videos about it, they're saying these 2 girls were running away together. And I don't know the truth. I'm just saying this is what this person says that he was told. It was one of my really good friend's sisters and her best friend. I don't know if they were running away or if they were just walking somewhere. I don't know the truth. I just know what he says. And I've never really heard anything else on that. I just recall that one day my best friend wasn't in school and I didn't know why. And then my grandparents had to explain to me that her sister had died. I have found out by watching the videos that her sister was the second one to go. So she knew she was going to die before she did. Some of the stuff I've heard has been heartbreaking. That she was in the trunk and she was yelling to her friend while everything was happening to her friend. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And it's just really sad. And then there was one more in June of 84. There was a girl by herself, and this is kind of the one that got him caught. Because he was reckless. I think in a lot of ways, I think people who do this want to get caught. I don't think they want to keep doing it. I mean, I know they enjoy it, but I also think they know it's wrong to enjoy it. So I think it's a little bit of that. And so he just pulled over on the side of the road and taken her right into the woods right there. So there were cars that drove by and saw him and his car near where everything happened. So of course, when the body was found, people told the cops, hey, I saw this kind of car, I saw a guy that looked like this. And eventually they were able to figure out it was him. Thing of it is around that same time, I had a friend who lived downtown near where he lived. And her mom used to let's just go for walks, like, just, walk up and down the roads and talk. And generally, like, if we went, like, to the Pizza Palace or something like that in town, she would call. It was back in the day, there was no cell phones. So she would call Pizza Palace and say, okay, tell them it's time to come home. And so they would say, oh, your mom says you need to go home. And she says, well, we're finishing our food. We'll leave in like 10 minutes. And so they would just tell mom that, and then we'd walk home. So it was not a big deal for us to be walking up and down the streets of town. It was well populated. It was like house upon house. I mean, it's a small town. It might be a mile wide. I think the whole town is 1 square mile. So that tells you how small it is. But there's houses like right next to each other. And my friend and I were walking, and there was this guy that we were familiar with. He worked for my grandfather, with one of my grandfather's friends, so I'd seen him before. Like, he wasn't a stranger per se. But he offered us a ride, and we said, "Oh no, we just live right over there. It's not a problem." And he's like, "Are you sure?" We're like, "Yeah, we're fine. Like, we do this all the time. Like, no big deal." Like, we didn't think anything of it. Until he got arrested, and it was on the news, and I was like, oh, that's that guy that offered us a ride. And my grandmother flipped out. And she, like, just started being really upset with me and yelling at me and telling me I don't ever take rides from strangers. I'm like, well, he's not a stranger, because when I went with my grandfather to this place, I met him. And back then, people weren't strangers. There were no such things as strangers. Like, you lived in a small town. Nothing was bad was going to happen. Like, even though people knew that someone from our town had passed away, nobody really thought it would be someone from our town that did it, if that makes sense. Like, for a lot of reasons, aside from the fact that it was a small town and we just thought we knew everybody. So yeah, so it was rough, getting through all of that and dealing with that. But I always felt super traumatized by it because, first of all, my best friend was totally different after her sister passed away, and we lost our friendship that same time frame. Her dad never got over it. Her dad always like would be on the news talking about it, and he just always took it very, very. He was very angry. And so for us, for me, it changed. I didn't have my best friend anymore. I didn't. I just there was. I was afraid of everyone after that. People I knew, I always like was suspicious of, even though they had nothing to do with it. They'd never done anything with it. Like this wasn't a thing. It was really traumatic for me. Um, so getting through that time frame really changed me and my ability to trust people. I already had issues with attachment and trust, and this just really made it even worse. Believing other people, believing in myself, like believing like this person just wanted to take me off the earth. Like I don't know if he really intended that. I don't know if he would have done that to us, but the assumption would be that it probably would have happened. And to think this person had the intentions of harming me, um, it just made me suspect of everyone. So people I maybe would have let in at times when I needed someone, I didn't. I was 10 when all that happened, or almost 10, might have been 9. And it was a lot. It was just a lot to deal with. And having the world change so much in an instant was really hard. And, and then after everything had happened, after it came out that my cousin's wife it wasn't my cousin, it still led to a lot of animosity in the family because people had taken sides. And so people we used to talk to, we no longer talk to. I would see them in the store and I would say hi and they wouldn't even look at me, but I didn't have anything to do with that. I was a child. And so to see people just be able to write you off so easily just felt like, wow, I'm really not that important. I'm not special. I'm not anything I thought I was. And it just really changed my own paradigm of myself. And I really feel like that's when things started to change for me the most. Um, so that is my personal experience with a serial killer. And one of the things that I see as a traumatic event that happened in my life. And something that will always be with me, but I'm trying to overcome all of that. And all those things that I've been taught to think about myself or learn to think of myself from situations. I'm trying to overcome those. And I mean, I'm not a spring chicken. I wish I would have done this 20 years ago, but it's just one of those things that happens. Our environment shapes us and we have to overcome it. So that's this story, and there's more to come.